All right, welcome. John Fieldley from Celsius, a global fitness drink, is joining us on our podcast series about how companies are continuing the momentum that they built into going into this pandemic and actually have been able to pivot some of their business to still find success during this time. I'm pretty excited to sit down with John. For those that are not familiar with Celsius, we'll get a little bit into the company, but last year they had year-over-year growth, a revenue growth of 43%. If you just look at the fourth quarter, they had 66% year-over-year growth. They're traded on the NASDAQ. It's a pretty cool company when you dig into it. And, you know, they started this year off strong. They built a relationship with Walmart in March to be a nationwide launch. Along with that, they re-engineered a model with China to be able to do distribution in China. So I think we're going to find some pretty cool stuff as we're out here talking to John. So, John, welcome to the show. Happy to have you here.
Excellent. Glad to be here. Perfect. Thanks for having me.
So first and foremost, before we jump in, where are you quarantined at? Where are you? You at home? Are you in the office a little bit? And how's it going?
Yeah, no, it's we're down in South Florida. We're in Boca Raton. That's where our headquarters is located. Probably have a small team of about 7 that's been coming in, keeping our social distancing at the office. The rest of our team members are working remotely. We do have to maintain retail presence as well. We're being extra precautious with those team members and doing the best we can as a group to get through this.
So just for those that might not be familiar with Celsius as a global fitness drink, and I know I've seen it in 7-Eleven, I've seen it in a number of different places, but can you just talk a little bit about the business and give them a background of it?
Yeah, Celsius was actually, the original founders created the product. They come all from the diet nutrition space, and they wanted to create a beverage which was disruptive. And at the time, you only had fat burners or calorie burners in the form of a tablet or a capsule. And they wanted to create a ready-to-drink form of that, which has never been done. So
is this like the old like Xenadrin stuff and things like that they used to have back in the day?
Back in the day, yes, but this product actually does not contain any of those ingredients. It's all vitamins. So it's green tea, it's guarana, it's ginger, it's got biotin in it. It's got a variety of great ingredients and 7 essential vitamins. So much different than some of those hydrocone or whatever some of those other type of fat burners were back in the 80s. This is all vitamin enriched and great ingredients. And they launched the product in that space as a calorie burning drink back in 2009, 2010. And really we've taken it broader and wider because of the health and wellness trends. So with the great flavors of green tea, guarana, and ginger, we've been really targeting a healthy, active lifestyle versus the original diet consumer was the original thesis of the business. And we've been able to take it wider and broader, like you mentioned, Target now, 7-Eleven, CVS, Walmart. So really capitalizing on today's health and wellness trends, and originally very much rooted in vitamin specialty gyms and health clubs.
Well, I think I shared with you a little bit beforehand that I tried my first one and it actually tasted great too, which I was worried about beforehand. So, but yeah, it wasn't a raging piece of energy, but I definitely felt a little pep from it. So, to talk to me a little bit, you went into this crisis with a lot of momentum. You had a really strong last year. The first quarter, you had a lot of momentum. Obviously, everything's because you're publicly traded, we can go and see a lot of the press releases and your quarterly reports. Can you talk a little bit about when you started to see that there might be some trouble ahead and how you started to think about it? And I say that because I know that you have distribution, although it's not huge in China. You did, have distribution in China on your own, and then you kind of re-engineered the deal to be able to work with some local partners. So you probably had a little bit of insight in this before somebody that might not have any exposure over into Asia regarding Corona or COVID-19. Can you talk a little bit about where you started to get a sense this might be a difficult environment to go into?
Yeah, well, that's you're absolutely right. We've been on, look at our quarter growth. I mean, we've had 5 quarters of quarter-over-quarter growth, really effective on the fourth quarter of 2019 when we finished the year. Just great momentum in North America and gaining a lot of interest from many key retailers for further expansion on resets. It's all supposed to take place March and April of this year. They've been postponed out to like May, June, we're being told. So a little bit of a delay there on resets, but you're absolutely right. We have a distribution partner in China. That they started to see the effects really coming out of Chinese New Year in January. So that made us really, once that started to happen, we heard co-packers were shutting down. They were locking down cities, as we all know. We immediately put a task team together and reviewed all of our contingency plans and all our supplier qualifications. We are a dietary supplement, so we have strict supplier qualification guidelines. We do try to put backups. We do have backups for every ingredient, but we needed to take it a step further. So we did a full review of our supplier qualifications and secondary suppliers all in January. And also, we just completed a capital round of financing in September of 19. So we did have sufficient amount of capital on cash on hand. So we also went ahead and increased inventories and doubled down on our purchase orders in January. So just to take extra precautions, when you're in the consumer product space, I mean, we're going up against Coke, Pepsi, the largest distributor networks. When we run out of stock, it's extremely hard for us to get back on shelf because we'll just get wiped out. Our spot gets taken over. So once we land, because of the rotation, we'll stay. But once we're out of stock, I mean, it could be 6 months to a year before we get that back because we don't have the manpower. We have to wait till the resets of the retailers right now. So we doubled down on inventory. We went from probably about 90 days on hand to 120. And we also placed blanket purchase orders with many of our key suppliers, pushing us out to July. So they started ordering extra raw materials in January and February. So you could say we're a little heavy on inventory, but at this point out, due to the brand growth and what we saw back half of 2019, we feel we're in a good position and we have the capital to do it. So we're very fortunate on that.
Was that a difficult decision to decide to start spending money when you weren't know if you were even going to be able to sell the inventory and you were here in China, but all of us kind of believed it wouldn't come over here as much as we wanted to think that, a lot of people didn't make good business decisions ahead of time. Was there some pushback or, some thoughtful discussion, I guess, as a team around ramping it up and spending that extra money where they might be sitting there?
Yeah, no, there was. We had a long debate about it. Just something in our guts that, we wanted to be safe than sorry. And back in January, or really March of 2019, we've had a lot of challenges with some co-packers being a growing small brand in the beverage space, where we were getting pushed around from a lot of co-packers. So we felt, we didn't want to go through that challenge again. We had the opportunity to place some large purchase orders and get the product. Yes, it's going to cost us a little more in warehousing, but due to the brand growth, the 5 quarters, a quarter over growth, and all the new retailers that want to take us on, it's better to be safe than sorry at this point. So we all felt it was the right decision to do that, but we did have a long debate on that. We do have a good shelf life on our product as well, so we're fortunate in that sense. So if we're working with a perishable, that definitely would not, you can't do those type of decisions. But due to the business we're in, the shelf life, and the demand we were seeing, it is risky, but sometimes you got to take risks, and we felt it was a calculated risk, which is key.
Yep. So then we hit quarantine. That you ramped up inventory going through, but we weren't sure of how locked down we were going to be in the States or in Florida or and you're all over the world and the country, but you do have a lot of exposure to the gyms. And so, don't quote me, I want to say it was 7 to 15% of your revenue might come from some of the stuff you're doing there. And there's something I read beforehand, but there's some piece of your revenue that's coming from sales at the gyms. Can you talk a little bit about how this has affected some of your revenue streams, and then start to spend a little time on how you started to pivot to look at other opportunities during this time?
Yeah, and that was the other thing when we were increasing inventories, and then we started to see our retail partners shut down. So our inventories are going up because we made those decisions to produce extra, and it's about 15% of our revenue is coming from fitness. That gets shut down. We get purchase order cancellations coming in. We also have a good growing business in the at-work locations, which we just really started to put some resources against We have a small team focused on that. We started that in the back half of 2018. We saw some good traction throughout 2019, and that started to dry up. So we've seen this, and then we also saw the surge in grocery and mass, and then online as well. So there's been a real shifting that takes place. And then we're also hearing stories about how energy drink sales are down like 30%, 20%. Some brands are down 50% because the bulk of their revenue is coming from the convenience channel. Because energy drinks, about 70% of the volume comes from convenience, and it's an impulse purchase. We don't have great distribution in that channel yet today. We only have about 12% ACV or distribution in that channel. So we don't have that much exposure. We're gaining a lot of interest, but that was very nerve-wracking as well. Like oh no, they were really seeing some volume decrease potentially in the marketplace. But what we have noticed from Celsius, which is very unique, is, it seems we're not a traditional energy drink per se. And that really goes back to our backbone and vitamin specialty and seated in fitness. Health and wellness is here. We're actually, it seems to be our consumers, we're part of their daily lifestyle. So you're drinking a Celsius before you work out. It's important. We're all in quarantine, but we got to stay active in order to reduce stress and keep our mental health. We saw a large surge coming from online sales, as well as the pantry loading that took place. So we've seen a lot of demand increase. And then with our marketing initiatives, we really, it's key that we always understand where the consumer is. How are people seeing your product? How are they becoming aware of your product?
So let me pause you just real quick for a second. So I think you're 100% right. It's interesting on how much people have started to be worried about health. I don't know if it's building their immune system now or not during this time, but I've literally worked out every day. I have buddies ask me to go for bike rides and paddle boards, walks. I'm a 40-year-old man going on a walk with people, and it never happened beforehand. But we're doing it as a social thing. But people are now a lot more concerned of their health, and I think there was already a trend on that. But now that we have a little bit of time at home, we're more focused in on that. As you saw those opportunities, and you saw people starting to order line more at home, people at home caring more about the health. Can you talk about how, were you in a cost cut mode? Did you repivot some of your expenses from one area to another to kind of take advantage of those markets? Because, you saw some of the gyms, some of the other places not be able to get that revenue you were getting beforehand. Yep. Did you start thinking about pivoting your expenses to go to some other growth opportunity, or did you start to cut your expenses at a time as you're seeing these trends?
I always go back to, absolutely. We started making adjustments right on the fly, and I think that's one thing about being a small business is you're able to make these quick. It does cause havoc sometimes with the business, but we move very quickly. So as an example, as soon as the team heard we started to see gyms close, we have a team of about 5 people that are focused exclusively on the fitness channel. We immediately pivoted them over to retail because all the volume was going to the pantry loading at retail. So we had them pivot to help our distributors and also our local retail partners. So that was an immediate effect. We also have within our marketing department, we do a lot of offline activation. So a lot of events, a lot of samplings. We took those dollars and we started pivoting those to more online activities with, some of the online partners, creating targeted marketing programs. With all the people online, your CPMs are actually lower now than they've ever been. So you're actually getting some pretty good value on some of your investments on online, and our conversion and revenue per dollar of investment, we're getting a good return. So we started to put more dollars in those areas. But simultaneously, we were looking for opportunistic opportunities to invest, but we're also going through contingency plans through every department, and sensitivity testing on our financials. What if revenues drop 20%? What if they drop 10%? Where are some of the breaking points? What levers do we have?
So you're kind of running two parallel systems. You're going not world ending, but revenues are going to be dropping significantly. What's the world going to look like? But in the meantime, you're seeing these opportunities come up, and you're figuring out how to double down on them. And so I saw some cool stuff you were doing, like the Sweat with Celsius, which is an interesting way for you to kind of give back to the gyms, and maybe you could talk a little bit about that. But like if I look on Instagram right now, like there's all these like people working out, watching TV or watching like a Instagram live and that with like their kids hanging all over them, which was something I never saw 6-8 weeks ago. So maybe talk a little bit about some of that creative marketing that you've been doing to drive either product or brand awareness or actually some sales or continuing to work with your partners.
Yeah, so our marketing team has done a great job, pivoting as well. Each part of the organization has done a great job and really pushing on the organizations to get creative. Number one rule is to find opportunities, maximize them, figure out what we did yesterday, why did it work, and how do we do it better? That's the key. And one thing they did is our offline activation is very much partnering with local gyms and trainers and really embedding ourselves into community.
So can you just, for the people that are just getting into business, talk about what you mean by offline activation?
Sure. Offline activation is not online. So on premise, that could be, guerrilla sampling activities. It could be sponsoring, in our case, like a 5K event. It could be doing, say it's a monthly activation membership awareness day at a gym where we participate. So that would be anything that would maybe not.
So it's kind of the belly-to-belly marketing. You're in front of people doing it, than opposed to online, social, that way. I got you.
Yep, exactly. Gotcha. So unfortunately, with social distancing, that cannot happen. So we pivoted quickly, but we wanted to support the local community. So it's very important that we build a community around Celsius. That's very critical. If you can't build a community around your brand, around your products, that you're not going to go far and wide. You're not going to get that continuity that you want. You want to be part of someone's daily lifestyle. And we really wanted to continue to figure out a way online to connect with the local community. We all need to support the local community. So what we did is we reached out to these trainers, these local trainers, and we created a platform for them to come to our Instagram where we'll promote it. We'll promote workouts called hashtag Sweat with Celsius every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Eastern time. And you can come to the web, you go to our Instagram live, you can get workouts. We're doing HIIT workouts, Pilates workouts, all variety of workouts able to be done at home. And it gives that local trainer, that local gym, a platform for a broader audience. So it actually benefits both. It benefits Celsius and it benefits the local gym as well as the trainer. So we can all come out stronger on the other side of this. So those are some great ways that the marketing team has been able to pivot it. It's been a great success. Really connected with a lot of more personal trainers, and we continue to build our Instagram. And it's all about helping people live a healthy, active lifestyle. That's what Celsius is about. And get out there with your kids. Come and join us at noon, 3 days a week, and let's get moving together.
Well, you know what I love in that advice that you were kind of giving, and you guys are obviously living it, is to understand that your brand has to be part of the lifestyle if you're going to be able to get that loyalty that you want and those people that really buy into what you're trying to do. And I think it's obviously the way that marketing has changed over the last 10, 20 years than it was beforehand. And people think of like an Apple or stuff like that people are kind of really tied to on it. And a lot of companies that, a Ford truck guy is a Ford guy, right? And then going through on that part. So, and you gave a great example of how you kind of change where you might have been trying to build that lifestyle brand beforehand, you had to pivot during this time. So your marketing spend and some of the places you're investing, would you say that you kind of you're kind of reinvesting in other places as opposed to trying to cut expenses to see where you can get the growth? Is that kind of how you're thinking about business right now?
Yeah, well, you always have to balance your P&L. So, your profit and loss statement drives everything. So,
You could tell you're a CPA by trade or something.
We've got to balance the P&L. So, and it's constant levers. So, by one hand, you need to have your contingency plans, and you got to have contingency plan A, B, and C. And then you also have your opportunistic plan A, B, and C for opportunities. So, we drive a little bit, we're almost talking out of both sides where, what happens if this doomsday scenario that we need to plan for, but then, right now we're seeing so much opportunity. So let's build these doomsday, contingency plans to protect us, make sure we have a good house. But then on the other side, we're going to take these dollars that we found and we're going to place them and we're going to strategically allocate them where we're seeing positive ROI. And until something happens that says we have to go to a contingency plan, we're fully invested, fully committed. Let's continue to drive volume. Let's continue to drive top line revenue and optimize our campaigns through these digital avenues. So we partner with Instacart. We've been working with them, actually started back 2000 and really about Q4 of 2019, we started working with them on some pilot programs. We wanted to be involved with them. And we were moving along, personally not at a faster rate as I would like to see. But as soon as we created a task force and saw what COVID did, we fast forwarded that project very quickly. And we're actually on Instacart right now as the exclusive really sponsor of the energy drink, sports nutrition drink aisle in Instacart, which has been a great partnership. So that's some initiatives. Awesome. Then we created, we took a task force internally between several marketing individuals and several sales individuals from the fitness team, because the fitness team's closed, reassigned those resources to this task force for targeting online shoppers and targeting the new shopping patterns of today and tomorrow. So we have a cross-functional team that's talking and scouring all of our accounts for regional accounts and national accounts, looking for opportunities on how we can get in front of today's shopping patterns, because we want to continue to educate, and we also want to bring value. So we want to keep this health and wellness trend that we're on, but we want to bring value to our customers. So you need to bring value to our retailers. So we bring value to our customers, but we also need to bring value to our retailers. So we created workout tips. We've created a variety of smoothies and food combinations, which are healthy and all done by nutritionists, as well as certified trainers on the workouts. So we can add additional value in addition to selling Celsius. So we come with a value add solution, and it's been working really well. We have some big programs in store in the next couple of weeks with some key retailers that we're really excited about.
So you brought up task force a couple of times in this, and I'm curious just from the business strategy associated with it. Clearly, when you see either an opportunity or risk, you're building a task force to be able to either hedge against the risk or take advantage of the opportunity. Can you talk a little bit about the business strategy? If you're a business owner and you're sitting here going, I see an opportunity, how do you actually implement task force? You just picking random people? Are you choosing people from different departments? Do they have a structure that they run this? Do they choose how to run that project? From a management perspective, it sounds like there's a best practice in there as a business owner that somebody could steal, and because you mentioned it a couple times. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, we have everything. Well, in the organization, you don't want to limit opportunity or creativity. So that's very critical. Right. We also leverage the cross-functional teams, sales and marketing and operations and accounting in a lot of our meetings. But we also, you can have opportunities, and we encourage everyone to bring them to the table and get creative, but then it all has to be tied back to a financial statement. So everything has to have a targeted goal and a targeted return that you would present to a committee in order to get funding for those projects. So any project can come to the table. Obviously, we have overarching strategies on the leadership team, but we always look for opportunities, and it always goes back to that financial P&L and making sure we have the targets. We're able to measure what our expectations are. Now, in a lot of things within marketing, it's very hard to measure the ROI. So it's very difficult. But when you bring a program together and you bring an opportunity, what are you trying to achieve? What are the goals? And making sure you're able to quantify that if it's a win, and then making sure you're able to optimize that as you go forward. Those are some critical things that we go through, and at Celsius throughout the organization is constantly reviewing that process.
So I love that. So what it sounds like is just because someone's in a certain department, it's not like you're allowing, you're stifling their creativity and how they can help grow the organization. So if you do see an opportunity or a risk, you're pulling people from different departments, into that task force so they can be able to start to come up with ideas, but you're also overlaying that with a financial oversight where if they're looking at an opportunity, you're going to put a CBA next to it, a cost-benefit analysis next to it to determine the upside of it or the downside, and it's really the amount of time or effort going in worth the risk or return. And you're helping also, though, by layering in that financial that financial editing, I guess, through the whole process. You're teaching your sales guy that might not be a finance guy to understand what a CBA is and how they should think about it. You're teaching your marketing person that it's not just about being creative, but it's actually about driving ROI. And if you're going to come up with an idea, how you're going to make money on that idea to do it. That's a great best practice to be able to take through. And it sounds like it's a little piece of your secret sauce that you've used to be able to achieve success across the board in a number of different areas. And clearly it's showing in some of your revenue year over year and growth on that side. So
yeah, I would just add in, I think it's, that's a critical key learning that is a skill to be learned, and it's a skill to optimize, and it takes a lot of repetition to really drive that through. It's not a skill that everyone comes pre-wired with, especially as you mentioned in sales and marketing. Like you said, I'm a CPA. I come from that side of the business, and it's important that it's a tool that we need to use. Accounting and finance is a tool, and it's a language that needs to be communicated to figure out how to best leverage opportunities. So those are some key things we go through the organization. It's taken some people, it's a little more difficult than others, and it's something that we continue to work on every day. Are we perfect with it? Absolutely not. Do we continue to try to get better? Absolutely.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, and it sounds like you've had to make pivots across the board from, a dietary supplement at the beginning to moving towards a global fitness drink, from moving to domestic, international, moving from working through gyms to moving online. As you start to see where Celsius continues to grow, where do you think the learnings you have from this environment that we've been through for the last, month and a half, 2 months, is there any learnings that you see that will go back with you after this gets to the so-called new normal that you would take with you as you continue to build out Celsius's business plan and growth plan?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think we're still learning exactly what has transpired the last several weeks. I don't think we have it totally figured out by any means. We're learning each and every day. Some of the key learnings that really has started in the beginning of Celsius is really, you need to target where your core consumer is. It can be extremely detrimental to reinvestments and ROI and the opportunity if you're investing in audiences that aren't relevant to you. So, making sure we're constantly evaluating the target and optimizing that target is extremely, extremely critical. And it's even more important than ever before, because a lot of the activation and investments right now have been going through online, which is some of it is targeted, others is a broader brush. So those are some key learnings that I think is something to take away. But that's with every business. It's you got to target where the fish are and your target consumers and your key accounts. You also need to be a good vendor to your customer, your retailers, as we see it. So we're trying to bring additional value-add services to our partners. So we're not just another vendor or another supplier. We want to be more than that. We want to grow with them, and we feel that that'll pay dividends for years to come.
So any last advice you would give to the business owners that are listening, or the budding entrepreneurs that are thinking about this, as you've gone through your career path from a bunch of different departments, but mostly on the finance side, to now overseeing obviously the whole company, which has a lot of marketing, sales, and other pieces that you didn't have to do earlier? Any advice on either that, or just from running a publicly traded company and being a C-suite executive, that you would give to those business owners?
Yeah, I think number one is prioritization. You got to prioritize. You got to prioritize every day. What are your key goals you want to accomplish for the day, for the week, and the month? You got to plan. And it's important to take multiple perspectives. That's a key strategy, that you need to understand what has transpired and what is working, why it's working, and how to get better, and set the goals and the expectations. And most importantly, follow up on the detail.
So you mentioned almost, and I know we talked beforehand, you have a lot of bigger players in the energy space and a lot of bigger guys. And you talked about, looking to see what else is going on there. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you mentioned that as we talked earlier on a pre-call around, seeing, identifying trends, and then, taking advantages of being maybe smaller to be able to do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think another key thing for business owners, understand your competition. Being a small entrepreneur and a small business, has its negatives, but it also has its advantages that can be harnessed and leveraged. And one thing we do is we watch the competition extremely closely. We talk about them on a weekly, monthly basis. What are they doing? How are they doing? Are they doing it better than us? Why are they doing it better than us? What are we doing? And that's really important because we're going against some of the largest CPG companies in the world. We're always going to be outspent, but we have an opportunity to outmaneuver. And that's where we need to run that through the organization. We need to identify those opportunities. We need to communicate effectively. And that's how we can win. Those are some key things that we constantly focus on. As we get bigger, that gets to be harder, but we try to have as clear communication as possible throughout the organization, and always understanding what the competition is doing and how do we stay one step ahead of it.
Yeah. Well, it's clear that nimbleness that you've been able to use to your advantage in the growth that you had. So congratulations on the success, but I also want to thank you. I know that you also donated a lot of sampling to the heroes of today, the frontline healthcare workers, donating Celsius to that. And I know you guys are giving back a lot to the community in the process. So, it's always good to see good corporate stewardship leading from the front on that side. So thank you for everything you're doing. Where do people find you? Is it just Googling Celsius fitness drink? What's the best way to find you?
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, we're on Amazon, we're on Walmart, we're at Target, we're at CVS, Rite Aid, we're in Kroger. We're all over. Go to our website, Celsius.com. Find a store near you. We got a lot of great retailers that we've been partnering with, and I'm sure you can find a Celsius close by.
Awesome. And we have a lot of South Florida listeners, and you're a local business here to South Florida. So we appreciate you guys being based here and giving back to the community locally. Absolutely. John, thanks a lot for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Everyone be safe. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Upreneur podcast, and don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, and share this with anybody who you think needs to hear it.